Good morning. It is nice to see everybody again once you jump on. And even if you're in the replay crowd, it is so nice to have you, whatever time of day, whatever day it is. That is one of the things I love about going live, but also having those lives be on afterwards is that we get the chance to live our lives asynchronous. We get a chance to, as people with disabilities or supporters of such, we get to enjoy the time we have time for rest, and connect with each other. And that is why today I have picked the topic to talk about the third disability tax, the one that no one thinks about unless you're doing it, which is having to catch up at the same time as being the person whose pace is slower. The world doesn't wait for those with a disability, and the metaphor is that if you fall behind, you are the one that has to go faster. So let's get into that. Welcome, everybody. And I'll bring up the chat and stuff and see who's on Instagram and stuff. So Instagram still hates me, but I like editing these lives too, because sometimes my best work is when I talk to people for real, even when there's only one or two people that I'm talking to. In fact, I think some of that's my best work because I talk to the people for real. And that has always been my goal in what I do, is to talk about the reality of things, but change the words and the metaphors that people don't know they're using. They don't know they're stuck within a culture. We think of North American standard culture as some sort of default, especially with the current political world around us. We have once again criticized and demonstified, made into the bad guy, all of the weird and wonderful and different things. DEI being under attack, even if it's not gotten into all of Canada, it's at our shores. And I see the changes of, say, Toronto Pride that I'll be attending this year. I live in the giant set of people that is around Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and there have been 3 large sponsors that have pulled out of Toronto Pride saying, oh, this is just a year, we can't donate. Suspiciously, allegedly, at the exact same time that shutting down of DEI for multinational corporations was made a thing. And I think that that is destroying some of the good fortune and communication that already had only just crept in to the world of working with a disability in Canada, and which I am seeing shut down around my eyes invisibly. And for people who say, I've never seen that go well or go badly, or I've never seen that at all, I ask yourself, have you ever been a gay man alone in an elevator when people get in to harass you? Have you ever been someone who had to walk all the extra miles to find that the disability door was locked, not yet open, had to be called, and there was no push button? You had to use your phone and go sit back down in your car, and this is supposed to be the accessible entrance. Have you ever been in the position? And that is what we mean by privilege. Privilege doesn't mean you're a jerk. It means you were given a gift. And all that most people ask is that you see that that gift was bestowed on you. I like to think of it like Sleeping Beauty and the gifts of the fairies that were meant to be good and the one that was meant to harm and the idea that these are things bestowed on you that other people see in you throughout your life, and not necessarily you yourself. And the ones that are privileged, that you know are a gift, you can say, I am so privileged to have that. I'm so glad I have that community. And the privileges we're talking about are the ones that you don't see. You don't notice that you are behind because you're not the person who has to walk that route. And diversity and equity and inclusion isn't about taking away the job from anyone. It's about getting rid of, even my own friends, my own partner, for gosh sakes, actually said, well, I still want resumes to be equal. Who said that that wasn't what we're trying to do? Who said that there was going to be any? You fell for the narrative. Even my own best friend fell for the narrative that this was going to be somehow unfair, he fell for the rhetoric on the other side. He fell for the straw man. And he did so as a white privileged male who's never had his resume ignored. And good luck, bestie, on your interviews and new job finding and stuff right now. But you've never had to apply as a brown woman or as a red woman or as an immigrant sounding woman or as a woman at all in IT and tech. You've never had to apply as someone who stayed home with kids and has a resume gap. You never had to apply as someone who had a mental health care gap. Those are gifts that you've been given that I haven't. And the tax that I want to talk about today is the one where you have to catch up. You have to catch up again. You have to catch up with what people think you're supposed to do. And I think of it this way. Even if you are exceptional and you do something incredible, say that you can do what someone else does in 8 hours in just 1 hour. Imagine you're brilliant and you get there and you finish the thing, the Excel spreadsheet, the graphic design, the art, the support, the helping other people, whatever it is, you do it in 1 hour, and then you feel ill and you spend the other 7 hours of the day resting. You have now done an average-ish job. And you may have even done a job where they go, I couldn't contact you, or you're slow on emails. So actually you've done a below average job. And here's the catch-22 that all people who are struggling with a disability or an internal vulnerability that they can't speak up about in industry, they are all struggling with the fact that people are going to assume something about you, whether or not you tell them what you're actually dealing with. So if I do something brilliant in an hour and rest for 7 hours and now look average to slightly below average, people will assume intent. If I do not say that it's because of rest and illness and pain, then they will assume that it is because I don't care to, I don't want to, I don't think to, I'm not trained to. And I will be treated as if I need to be written up, or I need to be let go, or I need to be told to do better. This has been the case my entire life, even though I am someone who has excelled, thanks to my privilege of straight up genetic intelligence and brown nose keenerness. I have always struggled to stay up physically. So rest was never allowed. Rest is not something that you're given. Pacing needs to be something that you step up and do more quickly. When you fall behind, you need to double your efforts when you are well again. And this has led my entire life to a circle of crashing when I'm no longer okay and I can't stay up no matter what I do. And then finally arising from bed or illness or breaks or contact or whatever it is, and then fighting to do 27 things at once so that I can look like I'm catching up. And then once again, looking average for what is a monumental feat. The highest number I have been able to count for simultaneous conversations that I have had at once by text, message, email is 27. I threaded 27 conversations about work in my head in order to appear average or slightly below average. Why aren't the things that I am good at being held up as incredible feats for the hour I do them? Why is my ability to rip apart a piece of software and find its interaction design flaws within an hour not being held up as something that could save costs? Why is it that I have to fight for contract time? Because I don't have the PhD, even though I have a double master's, and my education in teaching is more than most PhD earners. Nothing wrong with either route, but PhD work doesn't teach you to teach. It doesn't teach you anything about universal design. It doesn't teach you anything about actual learners learning or alternate learning. It just teaches you to write a PhD, which is a wonderful publishing thing. It gets a paper out there, one paper, and a lot of strict learning. But does it make you a good professor? I don't believe it does. I believe the old Oxfordian system sucks. I think PhDs in North America have to be completely overhauled. But that's a different live stream or a different video. But it shows the point that it is the way something looks that counts after illness. And that's the disability tax, the third tax. There is the tax. The first tax on disability is the one that happens because you are physically that way, because you have less time to walk, less time to have a headache, less time to hang out with your kids because you're dizzy. And then there is the second disability tax. The one where you have to buy, purchase, rent, build, wear, put on, wash, take, forget, run back for, put in your car, not let melt, put in a refrigerator, find a refrigerator at work. All of the things that help you be, again, average. Insulin that's refrigerated, an EpiPen that you carry with you, braces that you both need to walk all of the mileage that you have that day, and braces that you hate because they are elastic and you are allergic to the elastic on your skin. And so you have to wear certain cotton socks underneath, or ugly as sin. And you make a fashion statement out of wearing ugly socks. So you buy cute ones off of Amazon and you pay $50 for a sock instead of, you don't even know how much you paid for socks, do you? Because they're just, I don't know, I'm going to buy a big bag of them, right? And that's a privilege. That's a gift the world gave you. Nothing wrong with it. We just ask that you know about it and that you don't judge that we have to go and do those other things. You judge how well and how flawlessly we pull it off. I became a really good COO, Chief Operations Officer, in a lot of the startups and small businesses that I've worked with because behind the scenes, I am putting together all of the things for 4 children, a family, school, getting out the door, all the snow pants that I live in, the great Canadian North, and we go to school even if it's wind chill ridiculous, even if the snow and the rain is falling and combining, walk both ways uphill. And then I get to work on time, and then I do a really damn good job for an hour or two, and then I crash and I go back and I run early and I deal with it. That is what made me a good operations officer, not a bad one. It made me a brilliant one, lack of modesty included. I know my worth, I know what I suck at, and I know I'm really, really good at that. Why? Because I've always had to do 2 things at once, 10 things at once, 27 things at once. And what's the third tax? The life sentence. My illness is not a death sentence, but it is a life sentence. I will always have it. Other people get 1/3 of their life to sleep and 2/3 of their life to live. I have been given probably about requiring more than a third, closer to a half to sleep, and certainly a third spent resting, recovering, washing braces, buying clothes that fit differently and go around things you just see as eating too much and being fat, which are actually massive autoimmune differences, but we have to play it off as if that was a choice. Because becoming skinny when you're ill, oh, that's allowed. That's because the body's hurting. Becoming fat when you're ill is something you did, even if you didn't. And that's a privilege and a gift that you might not know about. That I have records of eating 1,500 calories and gaining weight because my body was in a state of starvation no matter what I did. I could eat any amount and I would gain, just like someone with another diagnosis or misdiagnosis might lose. The third tax says because you slowed down, you now need to up the pace to catch up. When you sit in your office chair, when you sit back on your school, work, Zoom, when you go out into the world, you have to catch up. You have now missed 3 banking appointments, a health appointment for yourself. You've missed one for a child. You have to message everybody and say, I had migraines for a week. Please excuse me when I didn't message you back. Can we please move it? Why did I do that? Why did my child not get to that thing? It was important. Aren't you a caring mother? Aren't you aware? Should we call FNCS on you? Should we check on you whether or not you can do it? All of those things have occurred to me in my life. And in order to look put together and clean and organized, and to have this nice background and have my hair done, I have to up the pace. So I let other things fall, and that's the tax. I don't go for a nice long walk today in a beautiful sunshiny day when it's not particularly hot and my body might be able to take the temperature. Or I do, and someone's annoyed at me and thinks. I don't go swimming because I can't afford the $800 fee to do it close by. And to be able to go and pay $5 or $10 is a 15-minute drive and a 10-minute building and dealing with other people and stuff and things. So I take the bougie option and I look like I'm upper middle crust and people look at me funny when I don't mow my lawn. I mowed my lawn. Now I'm going to let it grow long again. I rent, so there are paint chips on the door. And the neighbors complain, and I say, I've told the owner. But the owner isn't standing at the door. And they are kind, wonderful, sweet people. And yet, right? I lie with a migraine for almost a week, and when I get back up, I realize that all the things have changed and moved, and I have to fight to catch back up. I was an athlete when I was young, and it was taken away by this illness. I fought my way back to being an athlete in university, and it was taken away when I got sick again. I fought at 35 after 3 children to become a triathlete. A slow, fat one, but hey, I'm kicking your butt. You're not on that triathlon course. I ran a sub-hour because I kicked my butt at 35 and lost 50 pounds. But when I lost 50 pounds because I was super ill and had an infection, everyone thought that was impressive too. No, it wasn't. I was really, really ill. The one thing that triathlon gave me, though, I would, okay, I'm being hyperbolic. There wasn't just one thing. There were lots of things that it gave me, but one of the things that it gave me was an understanding of pace and how important rest days have to be built into training. That they are not a flaw, a failure. They are planned in from the beginning. And that the amount of rest you need is the amount of rest you need. It is not defined by the outside world. It's defined by your lactic acid, your body, your muscles. A rest day is sacrosanct within the race community. You can tell other people, this is a rest day. I'm training for a 5K, 10K, triathlon, biathlon, marathon, ultra. During ultra racing, which I never did, but I was friends of, and in the community of racers, rest days are as too sacred. They are, you required to sit in the hot tub on a rest day in an ultra. Like it is manifestly the only thing you're allowed to do, and people will force you to remember to do it. I pulled apart my desk the other day because I have a desk on the floor down there that I need to build and make. So I started to empty the drawers. And what happened? I had migraines for a week. I had meetings and things that became really, really important. I had a few urgent emergency things. And now, not only is my desk not built and rebuilt, but the old desk is pulled apart. And I can't find anything because it was all boxed up. And I think that's a really good analogy for the disability, the third disability tax. It is like in life, you are always stuck between a move. All of your things boxed up, but you still have to live until you get there. That in-between space. The time I don't get because I have to run or I have to explain. The person who has less time and energy has to explain to everybody why they have less time and energy. That is the third tax. That is the life sentence. I will spend a third or more or less on sleep or non-restorative sleep. I will spend a sixth of my life ill. I will spend a sixth of my life explaining or being afraid to explain why I was ill, or people assuming that I did things because of intent to be lazy, to ignore. So someone who loses time to a disability only gets 1/6, maybe, of their life to live. Have you thought about that? Or do you just think about the little moment at the time? Oh, that person uses a cane, so they had to buy a cane. Think about it all. Think about the supply chain and the operations chain. Think about what goes into that and what goes out of that. Think about the explaining and the way people look at you. Do they look at you positively or negatively? If you use a scooter and you're even a bit chubby, do they now all wonder to themselves, are they using that scooter because they're too fat to walk? Everyone does it. I see it every single time. I am glad to still be able to walk, but I am absolutely pissed at the medical system for thinking that lymphedema is cosmetic, even though it puts most females into wheelchairs within 5 years. If there was something that put males into wheelchairs in 5 years, do you think it would be considered cosmetic because it includes the technical aspect of liposuction on the thighs? Even though that liposuction is 100% different, it's not about shaping the legs. It's about removing fluids and fats that have become necrotic, entangled in pain. I don't give a shit about what it looks like. Well, I'm going to have to bleep that now off of my safer stream. You know what? Every once in a while, when it really matters. Because I do not care what my thighs look like if I'm able to walk. But I am not given that choice unless I pay $20,000 for that surgery, which becomes an impossibility. My father lost his ability to walk at about this age because of a little bit of incompetence, and he didn't have all the dice stacked against him. I have a lifetime of not being believed. I have a lifetime of my trying to beseech someone to listen being interpreted as hypochondria, addiction, all the things which I can prove easily they're not, but it doesn't matter. When someone makes that call at you, when you're sick, when you're vulnerable, and the ER doctor or the nurse or the whoever can decide that you are or you are not, then you pay all of those taxes. The one that's happening, the one that you have to get more of, and the one that you have to expend explaining it all. What do you notice? What do you notice as a young person? What do you notice as someone who's lived a long time of disability? If you're here listening to my channel because of you're not disabled, but you identify in a different way of something that's been missed or missed or missed. Maybe that's intersectionally about the color of your skin, about the attraction within you, about your orientation to the world. All of those things are perfectly normal. They are perfectly genetically normal within the population of humans. And yet all the bad people have decided that there is one presentation, one orientation. Why? Money. Because if you are going to steal more than your fair share, you need a reason, even if it's a really thin one, for why the other people don't get that. The metaphor in our culture standard North American culture right now is every person for themselves. And even social support networks are, here's a little bit just so you don't die right away. A million children will die. Musk has blood on his hands. The blob in Washington has blood on his hands. A year ago, I said this was a genocide, and I have been proven correct. And they will start with the ones who are in bed and can't speak up. They will start with the ones that are used to being told, you can't feel that, or just a second, I'm almost done, or I'm not going to stop, it's a medical procedure. Seriously? You're going to deny consent to a 13-year-old girl, but it's okay because it's medical. There are medical procedures that parents, guardians, and doctors have to say, hey, I know that you can't consent to this, but we're going to make a good decision right now. But it's never a good decision to say you can't feel that. You are not allowed to take a break. That language is abusive and horrible. And that is all that is needed to filter that privilege up. All that's needed is mean girl tactics, that the good people can't speak up and the bad people get to be sarcastically annoyed at things. So speak up. There is a time for safety. There is a time for the white story so that you are not in danger. Like, say, trans kids, youth, and young adults right now in all of the US get to safety. There is no need to tell the bad people your stories. But those of us who can speak up, we need to speak up louder. Thank you to the Knitting Cult Lady. Thank you to, I'm going to forget her handle. What is it? Penrose? I might be wrong. But our lovely permaculture lady who has become political, because permaculture is political, because misdiagnosis is political, because cults are political, because taking care of people as older women who say, sit down, shut up, and give a turn to other people, the time has come for us to speak up. And no, we will not shut up because we are right. And no, here's a pamphlet on victim blaming and victim shaming. And yes, I am going to keep replying to the troll who put up a comment saying something was dumb on a movie review about a fat movie, or a movie review about that had a 15-year-old actor kissing a 26-year-old actor and going, oh, as long as they don't get straw man argument, I'm going to post over and over and over and over, even a year later, that if you are okay with it and put up a straw man that says, well, only if the 15-year-old comes out, if they don't think, no, we're allowed to know that something's bullying, even if the victim can't speak up yet. We're allowed to know that something is child abuse, even if the child can't speak up yet. Do not put a child abuse straw man fallacy argument in front of me and then say, why are you the one who's commenting all the time? Why do you keep commenting then? What's your goal? My goal is to tell you that you've just sanctioned child abuse over and over and over, and that you're going to do it again. And I know exactly what your next move is because you're an idiot. So I'm going to speak up about disability because I have relative safety. I have relative privilege for being somewhere in Canada, somewhere near the big Toronto, being a relatively average looking, fat, ugly old lady on the internet who really cares. I'm not ugly enough to be, trolled constantly, and I'm not pretty enough to spend all my time dealing with people hitting on me. I'm just kind of average or slightly above average, because that's what I look like after 1 hour of being brilliant, of thinking about these things, of caring about the operations and the progression of the world, of thinking about how other people will operate and work in the system, about working in the system, but also working to shut down the system, to build a new system, to build a new metaphor. And then having an hour a day or less so that I can look average enough to have relative safety to say that on the internet, to post it everywhere, to speak up. And I'll keep doing that. Because if the vanguard on the edge of a certain privilege does not turn around and realize that always, always the battle line is behind them, whatever privilege they've been given, passing as a white woman, that's a privilege I have to turn around and say, you know what, sometimes I get the privilege of that and don't have to think about parking lots or being on the internet as a brown woman or as a red woman as often as others. I'm cis presenting. I am cis, but I'm also cis presenting. My gender and my assigned sex at birth match. That's a privilege. I don't have to do all that other stuff. Yay. So I have to turn and realize that the battle line is behind me. Of that fight, I choose to turn around. I choose to turn around and look at the people who need me, to tell the people that were in front of me, hey, listen, shut up a second. It's somebody else's turn. And maybe, just maybe, the next kid, person, younger, more vulnerable, who has to declare the disability tax. I fell behind because I'm autistic, because I have a sensory need, because I'm sick, because I'm abused at home, because because I had to leave home early, because I don't have a library, because I don't have money to pay for lunch. So I had to bring bread, and that's all, or I have to get home to the food bank, and that's why I can't be at the extra meeting. All of them, maybe I can turn around and listen and see that the battle line in culture is behind me. And the only battle I do not fight with myself. I do not fight my body. I do not fight with other people. I only fight the system and bad people to harm or to just simply not care about people. I'll turn around and put my back to those who don't care about more vulnerable. And I'll be a line that stands between. And sometimes I will be part of that difference. And sometimes I'll only be an ally. And there is the doorbell that says it's time to go. So, with a big sigh and much love, parasocial, appropriate neighbor love, village, take care of each other as humankind. Gentle hugs, just in case I have some tender points today. I'll sign off. I'm Maria, but you can call me Little Misdiagnosed. Have yourself a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.